let's talk about such a mysterious place as the Bermuda Triangle. Everyone knows that ships and planes often disappear there, which no one can find later. Look further and you will learn about the planes missing in the Bermuda Triangle, as well as the incredible story of pilot Bruce Jernan, which is hard to believe. He managed to get out of this terrible zone and tell about what happened there. Bruce Jernan is the name of a man who was able to get out of the Bermuda Triangle after incredibly strange things began to happen to him. Moreover, it is believed that Bruce is the only one who managed to do this. Bruce worked as a pilot. In December 1970, he took off from the Bahamas and headed for Miami Beach through the Bermuda Triangle. It was the most ordinary flight, which should have passed without problems. But soon after Bruce gained altitude, strange things began to happen. He discovered an unusual semicircular cloud. As the pilot said, at first the cloud was small, but when he flew up to him and ended up in the cloud itself, it sharply increased in size. At the same time, it darkened sharply. Only flashes illuminated the pilot's way, which began to sparkle brightly right before his eyes. The farther Bruce flew, the more flashes blinded him. The pilot was seriously frightened and decided to change course. He turned the plane around and flew back. It turned out to be the right decision. He saw something like a gap through the formed tunnel. He saw the blue sky, and without hesitation he sent the plane into the tunnel, which had already begun to close. Fortunately, Jernan managed to fly by before it closed completely. After some time, Bruce contacted the controllers, who said that they did not see him on the radar. Only after all this haze, fog, and clouds dissipated, the instruments started working and the controllers were able to determine his location. When it became clear where the pilot was flying, everyone was shocked. It turned out that the plane almost reached its destination. Although about 45 minutes had passed since takeoff, the flight should have lasted at least an hour and a half. As Bruce himself suggested, the Bermuda Triangle was to blame, from which he miraculously managed to get out. The pilot believed that if he had not managed to fly out of that tunnel, then the plane would never have been found. According to the pilot, the Bermuda Triangle not only absorbs planes and ships, but also represents a space-time phenomenon. Jernan believed that the triangle helped him make a jump in time. According to him, he overcame 100 kilometers in just 10 seconds of cutting space and time. Despite the interesting story of Bruce Jernan, his explanation of the whole situation sounds a bit strange, really. It's hard enough to believe about the light in the tunnel and the flickering flashes. But what if the pilot is right and his whole story is genuine, and he still managed to get the plane out of the Bermuda Triangle when strange things began to happen there? They began to actively talk about the secrets of the Bermuda Triangle only in the middle of the last century. However, mystical disappearances occurred in this region of the Atlantic before. The disappearance of the Carol A. Deering crew is one of the most famous and mysterious in this regard. This is not the name of the captain of the ship, but an American 5-masted cargo schooner. The ship set off on its last voyage in January 1921. Carol A. Deering and crew were last seen at the lightship at Cape Lookout off South Carolina. 2 days later, the ship was found stranded off North Carolina, but there was no crew on board. In all other respects, it seemed that the crew was just hiding somewhere on the ship. Dinner was being prepared in the galley, and the sails were raised. The crew has not been found so far. It is not clear where everyone went and how exactly the ship was aground. There were many versions, but many are sure that the Bermuda Triangle took sailors with it. A little earlier, another mysterious disappearance occurred. The American ship Cyclops, which was used as a bulk carrier, set off on its last voyage in March 1918. There were more than 300 people on board. The ship was carrying more than 10,000 tons of ore, but none of this was found. The Cyclops seemed to have evaporated. The crew did not send any alarm signals. The ship seemed to have fallen through the ground, or rather through the water. But in this case, some fragments of the body should have remained, or at least something else. But no, careful searches did not give any results. Cyclops was never found. Even during the search, various theories were put forward about what happened, but none of them could adequately explain the loss of a large ship with a bunch of cargo and 300. The disappearance of the Cyclops is recognized as the largest in the history of the Triangle. Lockheed R-7V1 back to aircraft. If the aircraft of Bruce Jernan managed to get out of the mystical zone, then the Lockheed R-7V1 forever remains somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle. A large liner carrying 42 people from the United States to Morocco at that time was considered something like a Titanic. For ships of the early 20th century, the liner was much better protected than other aircraft and was very reliable. October 30, 1954, the plane took off from the United States. Shortly before midnight, the pilots last contacted. At that time they were in the area of the triangle. They did not get in touch anymore, and the plane itself disappeared. Ships and planes set off in search of the missing plane. They combed the area around the clock where the liner could disappear, but did not find anything. No debris, no things, no bodies. But what generally happens in the Bermuda Triangle? Why planes and ships disappear there so often? Can this be somehow explained? There are several interesting alternative and exotic theories about this. According to one of the most daring hypotheses, all the accidents that happen in the Bermuda Triangle are the fault of the comet. Proponents of this theory believe that about 11,000 years ago, in the very place where the Bermuda Triangle is now located, a comet fell, despite the fact that this celestial body can have special electromagnetic properties that affect the operation of navigation equipment and engines, hence all these interruptions in electronics courts. An even more daring and exotic theory is that the Bermuda Triangle is studded with a variety of portals. In fact, Bruce Jernan told about one of them. As you remember, that portal was temporary. Flying through it, he cut the flight time by about half. Supporters of the theory of portals believe that there are space-time distortions in the Bermuda Triangle. In this part of the ocean, time can go differently, and space can be connected with parallel worlds. Finally, another alternative theory, probably the most unusual and exotic. Its supporters believe that the Atlantic Underwater Test and Evaluation Center is involved in the disappearance. According to supporters of the theory, this is a center owned by the United States, which is engaged in secret testing of submarines of weapons and sonar. Tests are also carried out in the Bermuda Triangle area. In this case, the loss of aircraft and ships can be attributed to the fact that their passengers and crew members simply became witnesses who must be eliminated so that they do not blather anything. Something in the style of Hollywood movies, right?